Welcome. And before anything else, before any technique or any guidance or any invitation to do or feel or become something different from what you are right now, I just want to say something simple. You are tired. Not just physically tired, though the body is certainly carrying its share of it tonight, but the deeper kind. The kind that has nothing to do with how much you slept last night or whether your muscles ache. The kind that comes from thinking too much for too long, from carrying too much for too many days in a row, from being the person in your life who does not get to stop, who does not get to put down the cognitive load because the cognitive load is too important or too urgent or too full of things that only you can carry, the kind that comes from being mentally on constantly in a world that never quite turns off. This kind of tiredness has a specific quality that ordinary tiredness does not. It sits differently. It lives in the space behind the eyes rather than in the muscles. It makes the simplest thing, the thing of simply lying here and being still and allowing the night to do its work, feel strangely difficult because the mind that is mentally exhausted is often the last mind to stop, still running its tabs, still processing, still generating the next thing to consider, even as the body has long since given up and surrendered to the horizontal. I know that mind, and tonight, right now, in this moment, that mind has permission to stop. Not temporarily, not conditionally, not after finishing one more thing. To stop, to rest, to let something else be in charge for the length of this night. My name is Clara, and I am already here, already steady, already unhurried, already entirely free of anything that needs to be figured out between now and morning. You do not have to match my pace yet. You only have to be present with it, the way you might be present with a slow and patient river from a bank where you have just sat down, not yet moving with it, but beginning to feel the pull of the current, beginning to sense the direction, beginning to allow the possibility that the water has somewhere to go and that you might go there too if you stopped resisting the bank for long enough. That is all that is being asked of you right now, not sleep. Sleep comes when it comes, and demanding it before it arrives only creates the kind of effort that delays it, not relaxation. Relaxation is not a performance, not something you can force yourself into, and the mentally exhausted mind is very good at recognizing the performance of relaxation and rejecting it. Just presence, just this room, this dark, this breath that is already moving in and out of this body, that is already lying in this bed, that is already holding you with complete and unconditional reliability. You are here. That is enough. And from here, everything else that needs to happen tonight will happen on its own. I want to begin by acknowledging something that the mentally exhausted mind almost never receives adequate acknowledgement for, which is the sheer quantity of what it does. Think for a moment, not a long moment, just a gentle, brief, compassionate moment about what your mind has processed today. The decisions, large and small, conscious and automatic, from the trivial to the consequential. The relationships it has navigated, the reading of tone and subtext, the management of expectations, the emotional labor of being a person in contact with other people who have their own needs and their own difficulties and their own claims on your attention. the problems it has held simultaneously. The one at work that is still unsolved, and the one at home that needs addressing, and the one in the background that has no clear timeline, and the general low-grade problem of trying to live a responsible, considered, careful life in a world that generates new problems faster than old ones can be resolved. The information it has processed, the emails and the conversations and the articles and the news and the data and the requests and the corrections and the updates, the endless, ceaseless, genuinely staggering volume of input that passes through a modern mind on an ordinary day. Your mind did all of this today. It did it while also managing your body, monitoring your environment for threats, regulating your emotions in contexts where expressing them would have been inappropriate, maintaining your identity and your relationships and your sense of what matters. This is not ordinary work. This is extraordinary work, and it deserves, not as a luxury, not as something that must be earned through sufficient productivity, but as a genuine physiological, ethical necessity, rest. The mind that has been running at capacity needs something specific to recover, and that something is not more stimulation or more processing or even more of the gentle, conscious work of relaxation techniques. What it needs is the experience of being genuinely off, not dimmed, not reduced, off. The way a computer that has been running for too many hours without a restart needs not to be used gently, but to be powered down, the cache cleared, the background processes terminated, the operating system given the chance to do the maintenance and the repair and the reorganization that it can only do when nothing is demanding its resources. Sleep is that power down, genuine, deep, truly restorative sleep, the kind we are moving toward right now, the kind that the body and the mind are already beginning to reach for in the automatic, biological way that all sufficiently exhausted systems reach for their reset, is not a pause in the running of the mind. It is the running of a completely different program, one that the waking mind does not have access to and cannot supervise and does not need to understand. You do not have to understand what happens when you sleep. You do not have to manage it or ensure that the right kind of sleep is occurring or monitor whether the restoration is proceeding correctly. It happens. It has been happening every night of your life. And tonight it will happen again with more depth and more completeness and more genuine restoration than many recent nights have provided, because tonight you are giving it the one thing it most needs, which is your deliberate, chosen, fully conscious willingness to let it. Let us begin with the body, because the body is the most honest and most available ground we have, and because the mentally exhausted mind so often loses contact with the body entirely, rising into the cognitive space and staying there for hours or days, the physical self becoming a kind of remote country, barely visited, barely attended to, present only when it makes itself felt through pain or hunger, or the accumulated tension that finally becomes impossible to ignore. Come back to the body now. Not with effort, not with force, not with the kind of intense focused attention that the exhausted mind defaults to, because intense focused attention is the only mode it knows, but gently, lightly, the way you might let your hand drift into warm water, not plunging, not purposeful, just allowing the contact to happen and then allowing yourself to notice the warmth. Feel the weight of the body against the surface beneath it, just the weight. The simple, physical, entirely non-demanding fact of mass meeting support. You weigh something. The bed is pushing back. The balance between those two forces, the pressing down and the being received, is the most fundamental available experience of being held. And you are being held right now. Not metaphorically, not in some spiritual or psychological sense that requires effort to access. Physically, actually, the bed is holding you, and you can feel it if you let your attention settle there, into the contact, into the weight, into the simple and sufficient truth of being supported. Take a breath now, slow and deliberate and lower than usual, letting the belly soften and expand with the in-breath rather than letting the chest rise. The diaphragm dropping, the belly pushing outward, the lowest part of the lungs filling first, and then out, long and slow, the belly falling, the whole torso releasing with the exhale in a way that, if you let it, carries something physical with it. Some small thread of the tension that the day has woven into the muscles between the shoulder blades, or the tightness that mental effort creates in the muscles of the jaw and the temple, or the held quality that the belly takes on when the mind has been running at speed. And again, in, belly first, lower lungs filling, and out, long, releasing, the exhale being the more important breath tonight because the exhale is the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, the physical signal to the body and to the brain that the running can begin to stop, that the alarm can stand down, that the demand has passed and the recovery can begin. The mentally exhausted mind has been in sympathetic overdrive for however many days or weeks it has been running at this pace, and the long exhale is the most direct and the most immediate available switch, not the only switch, not a complete solution on its own, but the first move, the first signal, the first genuine communication between the conscious mind and the autonomic nervous system that tonight is different from yesterday and the night before. Let that signal be sent now. With every long, complete exhale, the signal is sent. The body is listening, and it will respond. Let the awareness travel through the body now, starting at the crown of the head and moving downward in the slow and genuinely unhurried way of something that has nowhere to be and nothing to accomplish and is simply present to whatever it finds. The top of the head, the scalp, the temples. The mentally exhausted person often carries a specific quality of tension in the skull itself, a faint pressure, a slight heaviness, the physical correlate of too many hours of sustained cognitive effort, the way a muscle that has been contracted for too long develops an ache. Let the scalp loosen. Let the muscles of the forehead and the temples, which have been doing the small, constant contractions of concentration and calculation all day, release those contractions. Not replaced by anything, not replaced by relaxation or peace or any other positive state that might feel like yet another thing to achieve, just released. The forehead simply smooth because the effort has been withdrawn, not because ease has been added. The eyes behind their closed lids resting in the most complete stillness. The mentally exhausted mind tends to keep the eyes slightly ready even in rest, the muscles behind the lids maintaining a slight tone, a subtle preparation for the next demand. Let that preparation go. Let the eyes be fully and completely passive, not looking, not scanning, not ready to focus, not prepared to receive information. Just two dark rooms behind closed doors, quiet and dark and empty in the most welcome sense of that word. The jaw now, which the mental exhaustion body holds so characteristically, the jaw that presses and grinds and clenches through every difficult hour, the faithful physical expression of everything the mind has been working through. Let it fall open by the smallest amount, just the tiniest crack, the teeth parting, the tongue settling heavy and still in the floor of the mouth, the masseter muscles at the sides of the jaw releasing the grip that has made them ache by now, the throat soft and open, the neck long on the pillow, the muscles on either side of the spine unclenching from the forward posture of someone who has been leaning into their work for too many hours. The whole head heavy on the pillow, the full weight of a skull that has been thinking for too long finally, completely, entirely given over to the surface beneath it. The shoulders carry the mental exhaustion in a way that is almost architectural, the whole posture of the exhausted thinker, the forward curve of shoulders drawn toward the ears and toward the center of the chest, the closing in posture of someone who has been protecting the thinking space, guarding the focus, keeping the cognitive resources gathered and directed toward the task. Let the shoulders open now, wide and back and low, the chest expanding as they go, the whole upper body becoming more spacious than it has been in hours. There is relief in this opening, not just physical relief, though the physical relief is real and immediate, but something that goes deeper, a quality of the chest being larger than the problem, of the body being bigger than what it has been contracted around, of the space inside the ribs being wide enough to contain something other than the work and the effort and the sustained, grinding, admirable, and expensive cognitive performance of the day. Your arms heavy and warm, your hands open at last. The hands of the mentally exhausted person are almost always partially closed. The fingers curled slightly in the posture of someone prepared to type, to write, to hold a device, to do the next thing. Tonight, the hands are allowed to be open and empty and entirely passive, palms soft, fingers loose, the whole elaborate, remarkable mechanism of the hand at rest in the most complete sense. Nothing to hold, nothing to type, nothing to carry, just hands. Warm, open, resting hands. Down through the chest, and I want to breathe specifically into the chest now, a wide lateral breath that fills the spaces beneath the arms, the side ribs, the parts of the lungs that shallow, effortful, mentally driven breathing almost never reaches. In, wide, feeling the ribs spread outward on both sides simultaneously, the chest becoming broader with the breath, the whole torso expanding like something that has been held in a narrow space and is finally, slowly being given room. And out, completely, the ribs falling, the chest softening, the shoulders following the exhale down and outward. The heart behind the breastbone beating steadily and entirely without your supervision, as it has done for every minute of the exhausting day just past, as it will do through every minute of the restorative night just beginning. The heart is not tired the way the mind is tired. The heart does not accumulate the kind of depletion that mental effort creates. It simply beats, the most faithful, the most uncomplaining, the most completely self-managing system in the entire organism, and its beating is a kind of permission. This body is fine. The fundamentals are fine. What is tired is not the foundation, but the superstructure, and the superstructure is allowed to rest even while the foundation continues its patient, reliable, entirely independent work. Through the belly, soft and round with each inhale, releasing completely with each exhale. Through the lower back, the deep muscles there easing their long contraction, the lumbar spine finding its resting curve without the effort that sustained sitting and sustained thinking and sustained physical tension require. Through the hips, the large joints releasing, the weight of the legs finally fully given over to the mattress. Down through the thighs, the knees, the calves, the ankles, the feet. All of it warm now, all of it heavy, all of it sinking with the gentle, downward, irresistible gravity of a body that has been given permission to stop holding itself up. The body scan is complete, and the body, whatever its specific residual tensions, whatever parts of it were more willing to release tonight than others, whatever remains to be processed through the hours of sleep that are coming, the body has been acknowledged. It has been visited. It has been told in the only language it speaks, which is the language of breath and attention and the gentle, patient withdrawal of unnecessary effort, that the day is over and the night is here and nothing more is required of it tonight except to be here and to breathe and to allow the remarkable, automatic, entirely trustworthy machinery of restoration to proceed. I want to talk to you now about mental exhaustion itself in a way that I hope you will find not clinical or distant, but genuinely recognizing. The kind of recognition that sometimes feels when you receive it like something inside you that has been holding itself tensely, finally relaxing because it has been seen. Mental exhaustion is different from physical exhaustion in ways that matter and that the culture around productivity and rest almost never acknowledges. Physical exhaustion is clean. It is the tiredness of a body that has used its fuel and needs more. It has a clear signal, a clear solution, and a clear timeline. Rest, and the body recovers. Mental exhaustion does not work this way. Mental exhaustion is not simply the depletion of a resource that sleep will replenish. It is the consequence of a particular quality of sustained engagement, the constant processing, the constant decision-making, the constant holding in mind of the multiple tracks that a complex, responsible life requires. And while sleep is necessary for its recovery, sleep alone is sometimes not sufficient for its prevention. The mentally exhausted person has almost always been operating for some stretch of time beyond the sustainable pace, has been giving more than is being replaced, has been drawing down the reserve rather than simply spending the income. And the body knows this, even when the mind does not admit it, and the body expresses it in the specific, insistent, difficult to sleep tiredness that brings you here tonight. You are not broken. You are not deficient. You are not someone whose mind is uniquely unable to handle the demands of life. You are someone who has been genuinely working very hard for a very long time without adequate rest, and whose system is now presenting the bill. The bill is this night, and you are here to pay it, and paying it is the most responsible thing you could possibly be doing. There is something that the mentally exhausted mind needs to hear, and I am going to say it directly because the exhausted mind deserves directness rather than the gradual, elaborate circling that its tiredness does not have the bandwidth to follow. You are allowed to stop. Not because you have finished, not because the work is done. The work is never done. And the mentally exhausted mind has usually already understood this too well, has already internalized the truth that completion is not the threshold after which rest is permitted because completion does not exist. You are allowed to stop because you are a person, not a machine, and people are not designed for continuous operation. You are allowed to stop because the version of you that operates past the point of sustainable engagement is not actually doing the work well, is making decisions that a rested version of you would not make, is missing things that a clear mind would see, is running on a kind of stubborn momentum that looks like productivity from the outside and feels like survival from the inside. You are allowed to stop because the things that matter most to you, the people, the work, the life you are so hard at work sustaining, are better served by your genuine presence than by your depleted attendance. And your genuine presence requires rest, and you are allowed to stop simply, radically, without further justification, because the sun has gone down and the night has come and the world has given you the darkness as a space in which the stopping is not just permitted but designed, not just acceptable but biological, not just a good idea but the fundamental requirement of being alive. I want to take you somewhere now, somewhere that the exhausted mind can enter more easily than a forced relaxation exercise, somewhere that takes advantage of the imagination rather than fighting against it, somewhere that the tired and depleted and still running mind can follow into rest almost without noticing that it is following. I want you to imagine a river at twilight. Not a dramatic river, not a wide, rushing, spectacular river, a medium river, the kind that the English countryside is full of, or the kind you might find winding through farmland in the early evening. Green banks, the sound of the water constant and unhurried, the willows on the bank trailing their fingers in the current, the whole scene painted in the soft colors that exist between the last of the afternoon and the beginning of the dark. You are in a small wooden boat. The boat has been on this river for a while, and it is stable and familiar and entirely trustworthy in the way that something well made and long used is trustworthy. It fits the water, it fits the river, it fits you in it, and you are not afraid of it, and you have not been afraid of it, and the idea of being afraid of it does not occur to you. You are lying in the bottom of the boat, not sitting up, not steering, not paddling, not navigating, lying down, flat on your back, looking up at the sky above the river, the sky going through its evening colors, the blue deepening toward the purple that precedes the dark, and the boat is moving, not because you are moving it, because the current is moving it, the gentle, persistent, entirely sufficient current of a river that knows exactly where it is going and requires nothing from you to get there. The sound of the water against the hull of the boat is specific and constant and completely non-threatening, a soft, rhythmic, slightly hollow sound. The river talking to the wood in the language that rivers have been speaking to boats since the first person thought to float. Let that sound fill the space where the thinking usually is, not aggressively, not by forcing the thoughts out with the sound, but the way a quiet room fills with the sound of rain, gradually the sound becoming the dominant quality of the experience without having displaced anything, the thinking simply having less room because the sound is gently, persistently taking up the space. The willows on the bank go by slowly. The banks on either side move with the deliberate, unhurried pace of the current, the distance between you and the bank steady. The world on either side of the river going about its evening business without requiring anything from you. A heron on the bank, standing with the complete and utterly enviable stillness that herons have, that quality of absolute motionless patience, of being so entirely at ease in the present moment that the word patience does not even apply. Because patience implies waiting for something, and the heron is not waiting for anything, is simply here, is simply being a heron in the way that herons are herons, without effort or ambition or the accumulated weight of an exhausting day. Watch the heron from the boat. Let something of that stillness come towards you across the water, the way the heron's reflection comes towards you on the surface of the river, quiet and slow and entirely available. The sky above the river is extraordinary at this hour. There is a quality to the sky in the last 20 minutes of light that is unlike anything else the sky does. The colors layering from the horizon upward, the warm gold of the setting sun at the waterline shading through orange and pink and soft rose, and then into the deepest, most saturated blue that the daytime sky achieves before it gives way to the purple of the approaching night. You are looking up at this sky from the bottom of the boat, the wood beneath you solid and slightly warm from the day's sun, the motion of the boat gentle and constant and in no particular hurry. The exhausted mind, looking up at this sky, does something that exhausted minds do not often get to do. It stops generating. It stops producing. It simply receives. The colors arrive in the eyes and travel somewhere that is not the problem-solving cortex, somewhere older and quieter and less interested in what needs to be done, and they produce something that is not quite a feeling and not quite a thought, but something in between. A quality of being present to beauty, of being temporarily freed by something sufficiently large and sufficiently lovely from the tyranny of the task list. Let the sky do that tonight. You are not required to analyze it or describe it or file it as a memory for later retrieval.